A common question I get is how to go from a W-2 employee to self-employed or just living off passive income. Now, there are a lot of steps that are involved in this process, and that's what we're going to break down in today's video. How do you go from a W-2 to living your best life, to freedom of time, to passive income? Now, that sounds like a dream to some of you. It sounds like something that may never happen to most of the world. However, it isn't as hard of a process as you may think, but it does take planning and the proper steps. So that's what we're going to break down. How do you go from W-2 to being free? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you how to go from W-2 to 100% investor. So we're going to use an example of somebody who's making $100,000 as a W-2 employee. Now, here are some of the facts. As a W-2 employee, more than likely, you have taxes taken out of your paycheck, and probably too many. But because of that, you don't have to save for taxes in most cases. It's just withheld. But not only that, most W-2 wage earners are also receiving some type of benefits. You're getting a match on a 401k, you're getting health benefits, maybe dental benefits. All those are included on top of the $100,000. So the reason I bring that up is when you start thinking about going to 100% passive or an entrepreneur, you must factor you're going to need more money. You need to account to be making more money than you are today if you're going to do this. So I think the easiest way to say this is if you make $100,000 W-2, you're going to want to plan to make $120,000 as an investor or an entrepreneur. So the first step, while you're making money as a W-2 employee, you're going to need to take home a little bit less. You're going to need to save 10% of what you're making. This is essential. In order to do what we want to do, to be free, to be independent, to be an entrepreneur, to be a 100% passive investor, you got to start saving money now. I like to say the first law of wealth is keep 10% of what you make. So this is what you need to do. Now, I know for some of you, this could be a challenge. You're looking at it and you're saying, okay, if I make $100,000, I got to save $10,000. I just couldn't do that with all my bills. Well, you're going to need to start the process today of beginning that. And I don't want any of you to think that if you can't save $10,000 right now, making $100,000, that this is not for you. Start wherever you can. Maybe it's starting with $100 a month, $200 a month. Whatever you can afford to set aside, that's what you're going to do. Now, here's the most important part of this. If you try to save the traditional ways, like taking 10% of what you earn or whatever amount you can save and just putting it in the same bank account you use to pay your bills or the same savings account you use to save money, you're probably not going to be successful. You need to put this money in a place where it's more difficult to get. I can speak to this. Personally, I have all these different accounts for different things. The reason for it is I'm just like you. Intentions sometimes get overweighed by emotions. And how it can be summed up is if I have money just sitting there and all of a sudden I get this great opportunity to buy a new Porsche, I might be inclined to take that money and buy the car. Now, that was an emotional based thing, but there goes my opportunity to be financially free. So here's the suggestion. For the money that you're going to save, the 10%, go to a bank you don't frequent often or find an online bank. Set up an account and siphon the money there. That will be your segregated account. No checkbook and definitely no debit cards because that gives you too much access. I want this money to be just set aside so that you can be free. Now let's move on to step number 2. So step number 2, I kind of went into this on the last one, but you need to segregate the funds. This extra money that's going to allow you to be financially free, we need to set that money aside, but we need that money to be working for you. Well, what do I mean by that? Working for you just like you work for money. Your money needs to go to work every day, making more money. I always like to say, I want my little green marching men, my dollars, out there working, and I also want them reproducing. That's right, they can go have some fun at night. Yep, reproduce, pop out a bunch of siblings. Siblings are just coins and nickels and quarters, but they turn into dollars and they turn into big sums of money. You've probably heard me talk about how my mom saves money. She's got a big jar and she dumps all of her extra change. Then she rolls the change and that's how she buys big items. You're gonna do the same, but you're not gonna have to work for it. Your money is going to reproduce. So another option is not just high yield savings accounts, but You could use a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy, and you could use that with the infinite banking concepts. Now, what this would give you the ability to do is now when you're saving money, but you have an opportunity over here, or you have debts over here to pay off, we can save money and we can take the money and pay down the debts or take advantage of the opportunity while still earning uninterrupted compounding interest on every dollar we saved. This is the ultimate. This is the best way to do it, as long as you have a long-term time horizon. This takes time. But you know what? Building wealth takes time. You going from a W-2 employee to being a passive investor or an entrepreneur is going to take time. So what I just mentioned fits perfectly with that. So step number 3. I'm going to use a real example. So one of our friends and our team members started this way. He used to be an engineer and he made a good W-2 wage, but now he is completely independent. He no longer works for W-2. He has his own company and lots of passive income. And here's how he did it. He had a program where he would save that money, and he used those specially designed and engineered whole life policies to do this. Well, the reason he really says he did that is he's got a little one, and he's got another one on the way. So he wanted to create a legacy for his kids while still saving for this purpose. Now, how he did it is he had this program where every time his savings, his 10% that he kept, got to $25,000, he went on to a website called privatemoneyclub.com. And when he went on that website, he would find deals that fit his criteria. $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 as he climbed, and he would take the money out of the specially designed whole life and he would lend it in a first lien position on deals that he knew, liked, and understood. Keyword: never invest money in anything you do not understand, you do not like, and you do not know a lot about. So he got really good at that. He got familiar with the deals he was lending on. He built relationships with the borrowers he was lending money to, and he followed simple rules. When he saved 25 grand, he sent that money out to work to make money a second time. Now remember, in doing that from the specially designed whole life, you're making money twice on the same dollar, as long as you're at the efficiency point. Now, I'm not going to cover that here, but it's usually year 2 or year 3 in every one of those policies. You must get to that point before you're ready to do this. But that fit perfectly with his objective because he had a rule of 25,000. So it took him a couple years to save up 25 grand. But here's the best part. Although it took him a couple years to hit that first one, it went faster and faster and faster as time went, because then his money was working for him, earning uninterrupted compounding interest. And as that happened, he had more and more money to send out to work. And you will too. Step number 4. So what he would do in that prior example is he would take the interest on the loans he sent out to work, okay? The money he took from his specially designed whole life, he would lend it out in first lien position. They would pay him interest. Now he would do one of two things. He would take that interest and put it into a segregated high yield savings account. That's one way. So now he's got money earning inside the policy uninterrupted. He's got interest coming in from the loan he made, and then he's taking the interest from the loan, putting it into a high yield savings, and he's making money again. So he's making money 1, 2, 3 times on the same dollars. But then here's a second way to do it. You could take the money from the loan, the interest, and you could put that money back into the policy, which repays the loan to the insurance company and allows you to make an extra 5, 6, or 7%, because that's the amount you'd be giving up to the insurance company, because they charge interest on the loans. But it doesn't matter, because you're still earning interest and dividends at a higher rate than what the insurance company is charging you. All we're doing here is recycling and recapturing the dollars and putting them to work again. Are you starting to pick up what I'm putting down? Well, if you are, you're gonna love this next step. Now we're on to the 5th step. Now, I know there's been 5 things you've had to do, but that is what it's going to take from you to go from W-2 into a passive investor or an entrepreneur. And it's going to take you time. But let's just recap them in a visual way. First thing you had to do is you had to start saving money. Now, many of you are saving money, but you weren't saving money the right way. Saving 10% of what you earn was key. But where that money went first is also key. Remember, we talked about high yield savings account, but we also talked about you creating your own banking system and using a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy because you would earn interest and dividends in an uninterrupted compounding environment where that money grows tax-free, provides protection, and creates a legacy for you. Then we weren't keeping the money there. We were taking that money and we were sending that money out to work. Now, the example I used was privatemoneyclub.com, finding a real estate deal to lend money on. Now, this isn't for everybody, but for those of you that want to earn a better return, this is a great source. But you need to know, like, and understand how and what you're lending on or investing in. So then what we were doing is we were taking the interest earned on that loan and we were rolling that money back to the original source, which was the policy in that example. But you could also do this. Let's just say you don't use the policy and you use a high yield savings. You could take the money from the high yield savings, invest it in that deal on Private Money Club, then take the interest and put it back into the account it came out on. That's fine, but you will not earn uninterrupted compounding interest because, well, you all know, if you put money in a bank and you take money out of a bank, the bank no longer pays you interest. Now, if you do that with the policy, when you put money in the policy, the cash value earns guaranteed interest plus dividends, but when you take the money out, you're not taking your money, so it still earns. You're using the insurance company's money to lend on that deal. And because you took a loan from the insurance company, you're now making money twice because the loan that the insurance company charges you interest on is at a lower interest rate than what you're earning inside the policy, but it takes a couple of years to get there. And then now when you use the policy, when you recycle and recapture the money, rinse and repeat, we like to call that, you're reducing the loan, which is then allowing you to make even more money. And this is just simple mathematics because when the balance goes down, the interest that you're being charged also goes down because you're paying interest on a lower declining balance. Not to get technical, but this is how you build wealth. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Here's a quick recap. You keep 10% of what you make. You find a really good place for that money to go where it's out of sight, out of mind, and it's gonna keep you focused on building the wealth to free yourself. Because remember, if you're making $100,000 in W-2, you got benefits, you're gonna wanna plan to make $120,000 as an investor or entrepreneur. So to do that, we have to work hard, but our money has to work just as hard. So we need to send that money out to work somewhere. I used the example of private lending, and then I took the interest from the private lending and I just moved it back in. The cash flow came back to the original source. This is just a giant circle, but think of this. If your money just keeps moving around the circle over and over again at a higher velocity, your money starts working harder than you. And eventually, you can break free from that W-2 job. And that is, I think, what most of you want to do. So plug in, follow these 5 steps. And also, while you're at it, why don't you click that subscribe button? And also, there's a little bell up top. Smash that bell. I don't know why I threw that. It just seemed to make sense since I didn't have my punching bag. Smash that little bell. That'll notify you every single time I put out new content. If you like this video, check this one out, all about how you can take back control of your money and become your own bank. See you next time.